Do you think they intentionally make biscuits dry so that you're forced to eat the gravy with the biscuits?
Yes, yes, especially
Why?
at Bojangles.
Why would you do that?
Well, you got to have continued business somewhere. You got to upsell at some point, right? You got to try to upsell.
Yeah, but then they could just sell you better biscuits and make more money off of that.
Yeah, but then they don't make money on their gravy.
Yeah, but the gravy probably costs like a cent to make.
Again, upselling.
No, what a waste of time.
Bro, you know the upsell on like bars and alcohol.
Well, yeah.
They get their prime bottles for like $50,
Yeah, but they don't
and
have to
then
make the alcohol. They just sell the alcohol. I'm sure at Bojangles, they probably have some secret recipe that they need to make the gravy with.
I mean,
Probably
fair enough.
protected as hard as a KFC secret recipe, but it
Oh, the
doesn't make
Krabby
nearly as
Patty
much.
secret formula. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Marching Arts Podcast, your guide to all things marching. And like we just said a moment ago, today we're going to be talking about parades, a little bit of the history of it. We're going to get into some of that dark and ugly that we mentioned that we like to bring into these kind of these episodes. Or we're just going to talk parades. And there's not really a good way to start talking about parades, so we're gonna start like this. Hey, James,
Hey, Harrison. It's actually pronounced
you,
parades.
do you like paradas?
You know, when's the last time you've actually watched a parade? And
Watch the parade.
and
I don't know.
it has to be longer than 5 minutes.
I mean,
Trying to exclude a
probably.
certain thing that we used to
Man.
call parade.
Oh, are you talking about the homecoming thing we did?
No, I'm just talking about Owl Walk.
Oh, well, I'll watch my parade.
People will call it a parade. You're in parade block, and we play cadences, and
Well,
people watch us on the street.
yeah, but that's a typical. So I guess we can talk about that later, or I guess we're here. We can do it now. I mean, there's two different kind of things, right? In high school, you have a typical parade,
Right.
and then in college, you've got parades, and then you've got like pregame, like performances, and that's what we called Owl Walk, and a lot of people, like at Georgia State, they call it Panther Walk.
Right.
It's where you just go and support the incoming football team,
Yeah, but I
and
mean,
but that's mainly a college thing.
wasn't our Owl Walk separate than the Owl? What was the thing called where we did the stand tunes as a football team arrived?
That's Owl Walk.
Well, then wasn't there also the parade that we would go from our facility into the stadium?
Yes,
What was that
but
called?
that's not us going to the stadium.
No, I'm pretty sure it was a parade because people would line up on the streets to see us.
I mean, well, then I guess you could classify it as a parade. Well, that ties me into this. Let's do this. I've pulled up the um,
The history of
Merriam.
parades.
Yeah. According to Merriam-Webster, so trusted source to me.
Hmm.
The word parade itself has little celebratory meaning behind it. It comes from English, or it comes to English from French,
Right.
where it traces back to a Middle French word meaning to prepare. So, and
I
then
guess, yeah.
the original English language, it did require preparation. However, when the English started using the word parade in 1600s, it referred to it as a pompous show or an exhibition.
Huh.
Which is and then as the English moved into America, that's where we started taking over and doing it our own thing.
Right.
Um, and
I
I
guess
can
it
talk
makes
about
sense because, like, the military obviously had to get into formation. And I guess if you're getting into formation, you are preparing for battle. So,
correct, correct. So I wanted to talk about the difference between the two because a military parade is exactly what you just said. Right,
right.
they're getting ready for battle. They're getting in formation. They're marching into a battlefield rather than just moving, or even sometimes they would move in a block to a location.
Right.
Whereas for the United States, parades started in 1778. It was right after the uh, Declaration of Independence got signed.
Okay.
Was the first ever parade in the United
So like
States.
celebratory parade?
Correct.
Because I was gonna say
So
again, like I guess militaries have always been doing parades. They just haven't been celebratory because there's no other
correct.
efficient way to get somewhere than in
Correct. So
formation.
that's why I want yeah, and that's why I wanted to talk about the two different like the two different kind of worlds about it.
Mm,
And I'll read this. Ingrained in political, military, and religious context, these public manifestations, e.g., national celebrations, festivals, parades, or public mourning rituals, were initially rather rudimentary in nature, beginning in the mid 18th century. Um, and this is talking about America specifically,
right.
and reaching their maturity in the 19th century. The parade's role was to establish political power, accent mainstream traditions, i.e., like the Macy's Day Parade, and maintain historical and cultural heritage. And now I'm not so sure I agree with the cultural heritage part, but I agree with the rest of it.
Well, I mean, it's part of, I would say, American culture to have parades.
No, I mean, yeah, what do they mean by maintaining cultural heritage? Because I mean, parades are for at least celebratory parades are I still can't say it are they do them for different things, whether it be homecoming, which would be the culture of that homecoming, or
Yeah,
it's like the big Shanty Festival in Kennesaw. That's about the city.
right.
Um,
So there you go.
so I mean,
You agreed with
yeah,
the statement right there.
yeah, I guess so. I guess I don't know what I'm talking about.
Good job. You
Yeah,
did
I know
well.
I'm doing great. I'm doing well.
You try to read a whole article. That's pretty good for you.
Hey, shut up. I read. It's not like my D&D character can't read. um. So, but my answer is I am indifferent to parades.
Fair enough.
um, I think they're useful, or not. Useful is the wrong word. I think there is a place for parades,
Mm-hmm.
like at festivals and inaugurations and things like that. But just random parades that happen, I don't get.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, as a band kid, I guess it's nerdy to say, but I always usually just look for what bands are in the parade and see if I recognize any of the names. Or
Right.
it's always cool to see when like a DCI corps joins like a national parade because you know they're gonna absolutely blow everybody's minds and be like, "Wait, that was a marching band?" It's like, well, not quite, but yes, for you. um,
Yeah. Right. And that's
so
crazy. And the only one I've ever seen DCI groups in, just because I've never really been in a city when they've done them. I just
mhm,
because it goes by so fast.
right.
Is the Choa one in Atlanta?
Oh,
Um,
okay,
they're usually usually there's one or two in that one. Usually it's been Spirit of Atlanta and like maybe Carolina Crown or
right.
someone else. But I haven't been to a Choa parade in a minute.
Mhm.
Last time I was at a Choa parade, I was in it. So
Oh, okay. Was it Cavies or Madison Scouts that were? I think it was Madison Scouts that were in the Macy's Day Parade like 5 years ago now.
that was the Scouts. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
was
that
the
was
Scouts.
flipping awesome seeing that on national
Yep.
TV and like just seeing them between like multiple skyscrapers. So literally that sound was like being trapped no more than like 40 feet away on each sides.
Yep.
Must have been like
It's it,
ear bleeding for the people in the crowd.
it's nuts to me to think about even, what we would classify as like a mid-tier DCI group
Mm-hmm.
blows every other band out of the water like big time.
Absolutely.
So that's another testament to the skill and dedication level of DCI groups.
Yeah, especially when that
Um,
was just a reunion parade. So just like, hey, were you ever Madison Scouts? You want to march in the Macy's Day Parade? Cool.
yeah. Which I will say, I marched in the 2014 Macy's Day Parade.
Mm-hmm.
And man, what an early morning that was.
Yeah,
Because
so
we got up at like 3 a.m. Try to get a 220 person band up at
in high schoolers no
three
less.
3 a.m. Well, no, I was that was Georgia State.
Oh, okay.
Um, so it was
Okay.
collegiate.
I thought you were
So
gonna
even
you were saying you were in like the Macy's marching band.
oh no, I was no,
Oh, okay.
no, I didn't have that honor.
Mhm. So then moving on, do you like marching in parades then? Maybe you as a person do not are indifferent to the purpose of parades, but do you like marching in them?
I like marching in parades. I like seeing the crowds. I like being and they're relatively simple to do as a marcher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, unless you have a really complicated parade set, like if you stop to do like mini drill,
Right.
like some groups do. I never did that, so
Same.
kudos to the groups that did. But yeah, I would say I like being marching in them better than I did watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just because it's more fun. You're doing something. So
I will say though, you don't get the benefit of getting candy. Um,
I was yeah no
let's see. Again, you do have to show up really early and then leave at the very end. But our band directors were pretty cool. For some parades, they'd be like, "Ah, we marched long enough. We'll just drop out of the parade right here."
yeah,
um,
and that was how sometimes it was for us too.
right,
We'd be like 2/3 of the way done. There'd be no audience members anymore,
right,
and they would just be like, just play taps on the snare drum. We'll just walk until we're out the
yeah.
end of the parade.
And then it's just like such a hit or miss with weather. Either it's too hot and everybody's
Yeah.
dying, or it's the perfect weather, or it's too dang cold and everybody's miserable. So
Oh man.
and like,
Can I tell a story about the cold and miserable?
yeah, sure, why not?
So back to the Macy's Day Parade, cold and miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So for those listening, I think we've said it 7 dozen times already, but we're from Georgia. I
And
was I
raised
li- born and raised in Georgia the whole life. Never lived in a different state.
quarter century.
I mean, over a quarter century now. Um,
Sheesh.
yeah, I'm old, man. Um, so we went to New York for the Macy's Day Parade. It's my first time ever being in New York.
Right.
Number one, I got in the way a lot because New York,
Yeah.
on the island of New York, everybody moves really fast,
Yeah.
and down here we don't. um, and if you think you do, you still don't move fast enough for New York. I promise you. Um, and we got up at 3 a.m. to do this parade. And for a little context, for the Macy's Day Parade, that square that you see on TV,
Mm-hmm.
um, not all the groups that are on the parade go through that. Um, and because so they basically have two different kind of routes. They have a
Right.
TV broadcast route, so that's like all the marching bands, performers, and things like that. And then they have like another one for like the floats and stuff because they're not going to go right in front of the square.
Yeah.
And they kind of like loop around a building and then rejoin back in where they were.
Okay.
Um, but that's not all of them. Some of the floats do go through the screen. But anyway, they 3 a.m. You go to the square and you get one run through. You get 3 minutes to get your entire band through the screen. You got 3 minutes. That's your slot.
Huh.
And it's because every 3 minutes they would cut back to the reporters or wherever to talk about a different float or something, and then go to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we did our run through. And by the way, that thing, I don't know if they've changed this since 2014. It's almost 10 years ago. But it was road paint. So when you marched on it, was really slick. Um, and there's a memed video of one of our guard members from Georgia State. The camera cut right to her, and she busted it
Oh
right there in front of the
no.
camera. So it was. I mean, she was okay because you couldn't really make out her face, so it was
Right.
okay. But and no injuries. So but in the parade. So back to the point why I started talking about the cold and miserable. Um, we started the parade and got about like I don't know, and it's a long parade, like super long. Um, and we started got about like a third of the way through it, and it started precipitating from the sky. And the reason why I say that is because it wasn't rain,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't sleet, and it wasn't snow.
So
It
slurry.
was just it was just ice
Oh, nice.
falling from the sky. It was freezing. Um, and then like when you're wearing gloves and you get all that water on your gloves and then your hands start pruning and I guess
Yeah.
you always cut your fingers out.
Yeah.
But yeah, for like brass players are probably already like rubbing their fingers together because it's like you get like real pruny and gross. And then
Mm.
you just smell bad for like a week. Um,
Even better.
it's just it was wonderful. That and we were in the last part of the story was that we were trombones were at the front of our parade block. You know, it went for us, and we'll talk about parade
Right.
block setup here in a minute. Um, but we had our sign, and then we had guard, and then trombone started the actual band.
Mm.
And I was on that front line, and we had kind of a flashy horns down we would do, and we did that horns down. And I was to the left of center, um, and the guy to my left, when he did his flip and put his horn down,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't. And trombone players know what I'm talking about. He didn't pinky up. He didn't
Right.
hold his slide with his pinky. So when he threw his horn down, he launched his slide
Oh boy.
off his trombone like 30, 40 feet in front of us, and we all just watched it go like on the
Road.
asphalt.
Yeah.
Nobody moved because you're in the Macy's Day Parade, so you
Yeah.
can't like break. Um, and we just marched past, and it luckily it fell right in front of him,
Oh, that's
so
good.
he was able to just kind of like bend down, pick it up, and put it back on. But it was like craziness. Um, but all of that to say, those are the kinds of things I like in parades and why I like to march in parades.
All the crazy things that happen.
All the crazy things, because you can't say you did crazy things or saw crazy things when you're just standing there watching.
Right.
Except for one thing
Um.
we're going to talk about later.
So when you marched in the Macy's Day Parade, did you guys march patriotic songs or like marchy songs or like fun songs? And then, um, gosh, I forgot my second question. Oh, did you have like multiple songs to go through, or did you always just have one song and that was the same song on repeat?
So I think we had a pretty standard rotation. I think a lot of groups do this is where they have like three songs they pick, and then they
Mm-hmm.
have like a cadence in between.
Right.
Um, so for the Macy's Day Parade specifically, we had our fight song was one we did. So I guess you could say that we had a marchy song.
Right.
And then we did "Let It Go" by Frozen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that was 2014. So
Right.
Frozen was like new. And then we had Sweet Caroline was our third one.
Oh, okay.
So it was really funny when KSU started playing Sweet Caroline, and I was like,
Right.
man, I thought I escaped this song.
You never escape that song. It doesn't matter if you're a
Never
musician or
did.
not. If you're a
Ba,
live,
ba,
breathing
ba.
person, yeah, you'll never escape
Right,
that song.
right. What about
Um,
you for when you marched in parades? What did you guys usually do?
our band director was like, every single bloody band does a patriotic thing, and it gets really boring after a while. So we're just gonna play Pretty Fly and Hey Baby
Heyo.
and all of like the fun stance tune stuff. And I think we would do like 3 or 4 songs in a rotation, so we wouldn't get bored. But all our parades were usually pretty short. It would be like 45 minutes max of marching. So
Right.
it didn't get monotonous for us. But yeah, I just feel bad for the bands. So I guess I shouldn't be saying that. Maybe there are people that are like, patriotic songs are the best songs, and therefore you should only play patriotic songs at parades. But if you're like that, then I feel bad for you because there's more to life than just patriotic songs at parades. Um,
There's more to life than Stars and Stripes Forever.
right, and you got to think about the audience. Like, sure, the audience might acknowledge that you're a really good band, but if you're the 14th band in the parade and you're the 12th one to play Stars and Stripes Forever, it doesn't matter
Yep.
how good you sound. They're not going to be that
They're not
receptive
gonna be
to it.
into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just always appreciated my staff for letting us play fun songs instead of like, oh, it's a Veterans Day parade, or it's we did Veterans Day parade, and I think we did like just end of summer parade, stuff like that. And so it was always like, nah, we want you guys to have fun, so play stand
Well,
tunes.
good. Well, good. Now, and those are the kind of band experiences I wish everyone had access to, because
Right.
there's also a lot of groups out there where it's like we don't dare do a parade,
Yeah.
because we are no fun, serious only.
Yeah.
Um, what did you guys do like to get ready for a parade? Like on a normal parade day, what does that look? What did you guys do as a group?
Not much really. We would just have basic block in the parking lot for like 4 minutes. I mean, like the week prior of obviously we would set the parade block, and then um if your practice field is large enough to like run a parade, on it, then we would do that. I know some
Right.
places probably had a track, so they could probably do it on the school track, which would be nice. And then
Yeah.
so yeah, we would use our practice field as like a parade block, and then our band director, if it was late enough at school, then like all the cars would be gone, so he'd kind of just bring us all around the school campus, even if it wasn't just our like green. So we did that. We would, set parade block. Usually the weaker members would be with the stronger marchers, just so everybody would stay in step. And then,
When you say weaker members with the stronger members,
mhm.
can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so like it might be a freshman who is just, especially when our season was a little weird because our first parade would be before, it would be band camp and then 2 weeks of like after band camp and then parade, and then our first game wasn't for like another 3 weeks. So these were like freshmen. They were fresh out of band camp. They maybe had like 5 weeks of marching experience total ever. So they would just not be as experienced at marching. So we would kind of try to pair up the more rookie people who maybe weren't as comfortable marching, just so we could remind them, hey, keep in line. Hey, you're out of step.
Right.
Stuff like that. So we would do that, and then we would just show up at the parade, and then our first parade, we would always wear T-shirts that had our like new show design on it, and then our second parade, we would always wear uniforms because it was cooler in the year, so it was fine
So
to wear the uniforms.
okay, so you guys didn't do uniforms every time.
No, that would have been awful, and I feel bad for everybody who has to wear uniforms every single time, because like I don't care what the uniform material claims it can do. It's always just hotter in a uniform compared to jeans and in khaki shorts. I mean, not
Yeah.
jeans, but a t-shirt and khaki shorts.
Did you guys for your high school headwear? Do you guys do shakos or helmets?
We did Shakos, but I think for parade, I don't even think we wore Shakos because it was just another thing for us to keep track of. And like again, if something fell off, like it could break at the parade, and then like a staff member would have to go get it.
Yeah.
So
The reason why I ask is because at North Cobb when I was there, we were doing helmets, and they
okay.
had these two really annoying screws in them
Oh no.
that were right here on the
Hmm.
forehead. So when you wore the helmet, they would stab you in the forehead. So it was really funny. Before the band season would start, the
Right.
boosters would cut out like hundreds of these little foam
Hmm.
little plugs, and everyone's stuffing them in onto the screws
Nice.
in the helmet. So that's the only reason I was asking.
Right.
For us, we when we got ready for a parade, we would do like one or two parade blocks during our normal like practice week. Um, excuse me. Woo, long day. And and then we would have the parade that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it was homecoming, we would have it on Thursday before the Friday night football game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I mean, yeah, same kind of thing. We'd get there early. We would warm up and then get in block and just do our thing and
Yeah.
be done.
I just thought it was criminal that you'd have to show up so early for the parade since like roads would close, so cars couldn't get through, and then you would just sit around in like your starting spot for like an hour or two. So more time was
Yeah,
just
no
wasted
kidding.
at parade, just waiting for the parade to actually start. But
Yeah, that's the downside of marching in a parade for sure.
yeah, that's interesting. We obviously had homecoming, but we never had homecoming parades. So when I got
Huh.
to Kennesaw, I was like, "What? We have to do a parade for homecoming? That seems silly, but okay."
And we did what, two?
I know when I was there, we did one. I don't know what happened after I left. So
We did that. I was part of the first one when we did it and we marched
on
through
campus,
campus.
yeah,
Yeah, and that was
so weird.
not great. But then afterward, we actually marched like down into like where the transit lot was.
Oh, okay,
But I think I really only did that like once or twice, maybe.
right.
There wasn't really many that I can remember because
Hmm.
it wasn't really worth our time. So
Fair enough. All right, so backing up a little bit, now that I remembered, so Macy's Day is like the big East Coast parade, right? Lots of bands
yeah,
like sort of want to aspire for that. But also on the West Coast, I think like the Rose Bowl parade was pretty much, the big marquee parade. So I wonder, like, I wish we had somebody here that had marched the Rose Bowl parade and see it be like, no, yeah, it's the best thing ever since it's like January, but it's like in California, so it's not hot, it's not cold,
right.
and like it's not melty time one way or another.
So if someone's listening to this that has marched in the Rose Bowl, let us know. Drop us a comment. Let us know how it was for
Yeah.
you
Oh, and
because
also
we have
like the Rose Bowl parade always would have like some sort of international presence, like maybe bands from Japan or bands from Mexico or even like Guatemala and stuff like that. So I think it was just
since
cool.
being on the West Coast.
Yeah. And then like obviously it was like always a flower parade, so it's always more just colorful than the Macy's Day parade. Obviously it's not the Macy's Day's fault. It's November in New York. It's always going to be
Right.
drab looking.
Yeah. But Macy's Day is fun. I wish I was able to march in the Rose Bowl. I'd love to be able to go see the Rose Bowl parade.
Right.
But it's expensive. Flights are expensive. So,
What? No way. Just walk.
um, so speaking about parades and funny things that happen at parades, did you ever have people that like lost pieces of their instrument or like mouthpieces or anything?
Yeah, I was thinking about when you were talking about how that guy just flew off his slide on his trombone. There was always be those people that would be overzealous on doing the horns down, and like when it's colder, obviously you don't want to jam your mouthpiece in all the way, but some people wouldn't put in their mouthpiece like all the way in, so when they did the horns down, um, their mouthpiece would go flying, and then either they would try to quickly get it, but it's still the parade, or like they would have to tell staff members to try to go find it, and other times they would just march the rest of the parade without it. And then the other times, you gotta empty out your slides from all the juice.
All
And then
the
people
juice.
would take out their mouthpiece and then like, flip their horn over to do whatever maneuvering they had to do to get all the juice out. But when you're trying to march and hold your horn while you're trying to maneuver around and you're trying to hold your mouthpiece at that time, sometimes people would also drop their mouthpieces like that. So there was probably how many mouthpieces would you say get damaged by parades each year?
I think it depends on the group. At a high school level, probably a significantly larger amount than the college level,
Probably.
um, and probably virtually none at the DCI level. So,
I don't know. I feel like DCI might be like, it's a parade. Who cares?
I
Obviously, they
mean,
want to
fair
look
enough.
good, but like it's so um what's the word, automated in their head that it's just like whatever, and they might just totally forget like, oh shoot, my mouthpiece, it's just gone.
Right. Oops.
um
I don't know. So I think to put a number on it, probably the high school level is probably like 15 to 20. Well, yeah, I'd say about 15, probably
For high school?
in a high school level. Yeah.
Per year?
Um. Yeah, I'd give it per season. Yeah, about 15.
I was thinking much lower, like maybe 5.
I'd say 15.
Because I feel like once
Um.
that first person loses a mouthpiece, and everybody's like, "Oh crap, I need to make sure
Yeah.
I don't lose my mouthpiece." How many would you
Harsh.
say a year total?
Well, that's what I was thinking. It's probably 15.
Oh no, I meant like the entire nation. I bet it's around like 5 or 6 thousand.
Yeah. Jeez. Uh, All that to say, just make sure you make sure your stuff's attached.
Yeah.
Don't drop your stuff.
If you do drop it, tell a staff member as soon as possible.
Right.
It's just a parade. It's
Or
not like it's a competition. Nobody's gonna be like, "Get back and block."
well, it depends cuz and we'll talk about this and it's our next point. So, we'll use this as a lead in. It depends because when bands are like trying to get to the Rose Bowl or trying to get to the Macy's Day Parade, they have to submit tapes, and the only way to get tapes is to do parades or to run parades at your rehearsals.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so you have to actually record an audition tape of your band and submit it.
I thought
And
you
then
just send in your competition tapes.
no, it's a you do a parade tape.
Oh,
That's what they did for Georgia State. Maybe they've changed it. I don't know. It's been 10 years, so.
hmm,
Um, but and then when you're accepted, you go the following year. So
right,
like say if you submitted in March, so this year's 2022. So if you submitted in March and you got accepted, you would go to the 2023
right,
Macy's Day Parade. So I think it's a big deal for to making sure that your stuff doesn't drop, and also it's damaging your crap, man. Like hold it together,
right.
and that all comes down to how you practice your parade block. Because we've said it before, you practice how you perform, man. We're serious about that.
I
But
guess
then
I'm just in
again,
the camp of like parades really don't matter in the grand scheme of things, and like I guess most of us won't be marching the Macy's or the Rose Bowl
well,
parade,
that was
so
yeah, that was going to be the next thing I was going to say. But on the flip side, right, a lot of parades aren't that. It's just another parade.
right.
So, but how did you guys? So now we're talking about. I mean, how did you guys practice your parade block? Because we just lined it up, and here comes the Glock.
Yeah, that was us. It was like maybe 20 minutes each practice the week of, and then never again. I was like, it's just basics block while playing, so
Yeah.
it really shouldn't be that much more difficult.
Yep. I think the hard part about practicing parade blocks are
Mm,
number one, turning, and number two, learning how to dress.
right,
Because you do it a lot in for the halftime shows or
right.
but
But you're
a
not
lot of
constantly dressing a straight line, which is a
correct,
lot of
and
work when you think about it.
you're actually dressing three lines.
That's true.
You're dressing your parallel or your horizontal, your parallel, and your diagonal
Yeah.
all at the same time. Um, and it's constantly. So it's hard. Parades are hard.
Okay, like I guess this is like dark, deep secrets from band directors, but do you think like many kids care about dressing at parades ultimately?
No, no, definitely not. Um, y- some would argue yes, because you and I both know of people that are like,
Right.
and then other people that are just like, yeah,
Yeah, you definitely have those seniors that are like, it's a parade, have fun, and then you have those seniors that are like, this is my last year, we have to be the best that we can be, totally possible, and it's like, it's a
at
parade,
everything, literally everything.
right?
So, um, but to the deep dark secrets, would be I think the majority of your students don't care
Yeah. Obviously,
about your
like,
parade.
if your line looks like a spaghetti noodle, fix it. But if like
It's
two people
relatively
are
there.
like, yeah, if it's relatively there, who's gonna care?
Just let it go, man. Don't stop your whole parade block to fix that.
Right.
Just keep going.
Yeah, unless you're in
Just
like
keep her going.
the president's own band,
Well,
then you want
okay,
to
but
look
that's different. Now
right.
you're talking about different things. We're talking about the general masses here, not the elite.
Or are you calling
Okay,
us
that's like
peasants?
you're also referring to us against the president's own band, the Marines.
Yeah, maybe somebody is listening who's in the president's zone and be like, wait a second, we care about lines all the time.
We care about everything all the time.
Or they might just comment, be like, I'm commenting anonymously. Yeah, we don't care about our lines, but don't trace this back to me.
Right. Well, if you want to comment
And
anonymously, yeah, anonymously, go ahead. We will not call you out. We'll just use your comment.
All right, so then here is a hot debate in the parades. Do you line up your parade blocks section by section, or do you do straight down the line, all the woodwinds in one line, all the brass, or not all the brass, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's evenly
Yeah,
dispersed throughout the parade block, so you get all the sounds together.
I think it has to be section by section.
You gonna
And what I
expand
mean
on
by
that?
that, yeah. And what I mean by so I was letting that sink, dramatic pause. Also, is fighting off a yawn, but we're not going to talk about it. And to me, ideally, I would have. I think the best place to put guard is always at the front. I think that's just the best place for it. I don't. Some people put them in the. I don't think that does them justice. They're doing a lot of work on a parade, so I say put them at the front. Um, and then followed by, to me personally, I would put the woodwinds up front. I would go down score order, right? I'd have my flutes up front, and then clarinets, saxes, down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I would have my drum line in the center.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have my tubas right behind the drum line. And then followed again in reverse score order. So it would be tubas, then trombone or baritone, um,
Mellows.
mellows, and trumpets.
Huh.
Because trumpets are really, really loud, so they'll sing out.
Mm-hmm.
And same with trombone, so it's okay if they're in the back. But my question to you, um, I guess I can just answer this question. I don't need to really. You can give your answer here in a second. For me, to have it set up like that, but then also be at a 2-step side to side and a 4-step in front. So be
Right.
real close together side by side and then farther apart in front. So that way your sound's a little more condensed and it comes out louder
Right.
when you're condensed like. However, you're not like right on top of somebody.
I think yeah,
So
most people agree on like the spacing of parades because you don't want to like, take too much space up, and obviously
right,
sometimes you are marching on single lane roads, single each way, so you only get
right.
so much space. So, um, I think you're taking a very pragmatic slash compromising way of setting up a parade. So I definitely see bands where it's like all the brass in the front, drum line in the middle, all the woodwinds in the back,
And that's it.
and that's it, and that's like a lot of bands out there. And then I think the way you described it would probably be what 10%, 15% of the bands out there that would do it that way.
I would probably say 15 to 20. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess the rest would be each
Breath
line
of fun.
has the equal amount of woodwinds and brass in each area, except maybe the obviously the drum line is always going to be in the middle, and then like the sousaphones would be right with the um drum line, because if you can feel the beat and you can feel the bass, then like you don't need the drum major in the parade.
Right. Well, you really don't. Depending on the way that you have your band set up, you typically don't really even use the drum major anyway,
Right, they
because
just
because
either hold the
they're
sign or they hold the mace.
right, or they blow, or they do command whistles to start up the next tune.
Right.
Um, but I mean, I know HBCU schools do it differently, mainly because they're more entertainment based.
Right.
Um, and I've seen some crazy HBCU parades, where they like bust out and all dance numbers in the middle of the parade.
Yeah, I think they would
Um,
probably answer all these questions very differently compared to us because they probably put a lot more emphasis on parades.
Correct. And I agree with that. So I think, but sorry, not I think. You so did you guys do the lines or you guys do the sections like what I described?
I think, yeah, we did sections. The Woodwinds were in the back at my school, but I know at Kennesaw we did the line by line thing. Um,
Which I wasn't a big fan of.
right. But again, we didn't really do parades at Kennesaw, so I couldn't really say if that really did anything or not.
Yeah.
Except for that one homecoming parade a year. So, um, I think the line by line thing can work if everybody's a strong player. So like a college band, because everybody's there, wants to be there.
Right.
And you usually don't get rookie members joining in college bands. And I think it just brings a nice balance to the band. And you can always hear the actual part, your actual section, since they are right behind you instead of beside you.
Not necessarily. If you're in the back of that line, you don't hear anything.
Oh, that's true. Well, then just put the best
Because
players in the back.
that comes from experience. I was always in the back.
Yeah,
But T would always put me in the back because I yelled really loud. So I
no,
would I would yell at people at the trumpets if I could see them messing stuff up. So
right.
she always put me in the back.
Yeah. But I think like just in general, Woodwinds always sort of get the short stick in parades.
I agree. I think
At least
all
in high
woodwinds really
school.
get the short stick in general.
Drill in drill.
Yeah.
Unless you're really lucky and you're able to march like 30 piccolos. And then that is
Yeah.
your like woodwind section because that's the only part that you can really hear when your band is that big and you have a stadium full of like 20, 30,000 people.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair enough.
and then like the saxophones sort of just get lumped with mellophones with their parts. So it's like, you can hear the mellows, therefore you can hear the saxes.
Yeah. Fair enough. Did you
So,
guys? We talked about this a little bit, but so you guys were partially required to wear uniforms for?
yeah, when it was cooler, our band director was like, yeah, whatever, we'll see you wear uniforms. And when it's like, when it was our first parade of the year, which was like August, like 5th, he was like, yeah, there's no way we're going to wear uniforms. We're going to just wear t-shirts and khaki shorts. So,
Yeah. I rarely ever marched in a parade with my uniform
that's
when I
good.
was in high school, and the only time I really marched with a uniform on was college.
Yeah.
Um,
And even
because
then, that
otherwise
was
in high
homecoming
school,
parade. So that
yeah,
was always in October, which I
right,
guess is a crapshoot in Georgia.
yeah, it can
But,
either be really cold or really hot.
you know,
But in like high school, all we did was the t-shirt jeans thing. So
marching in jeans. How was that experience?
it wasn't terrible. We only did it at parades, so
No.
it wasn't that bad. Um, it got if it was like a spring parade,
Hmm.
it was pretty bad because it was hot.
Right.
But that was really the only thing. And then every time we would finish the parade, and then everybody would change in the shorts.
Yeah.
Everybody would bring a string bag and then just change in the shorts. So
I just don't understand why they didn't just allow shorts then, if everybody brought shorts.
to make it some sort of uniform, but that's not really a good argument.
Right, because like
So
there's so many different types of jeans. There's as many types of jeans as there are different types of shorts. So it's like,
shorts, yeah,
were you
yeah.
guys allowed to wear sunglasses at parades?
I can't remember.
Both in high school
I
and
don't.
college, I was allowed to wear sunglasses, so that was a nice thing.
Yeah, I think we were allowed to wear sunglasses in high school. Of course, I wear glasses, so
Right.
I didn't really start wearing contacts until like my senior year of high school into college. So I guess I never really thought about sunglasses and parades. So in college, definitely though, but both at Georgia State and at Kennesaw, with sunglasses were okay.
Right. I just feel like again, what's the word I'm trying to say here? Most bands treat parades as a more relaxed thing, so I think definitely if you know your students are going to be in the hot sun, you should let them wear sunglasses.
I agree. I agree. Let them wear sunglasses.
Even if they're wearing their
Um,
uniforms, especially if they're
and
using their uniforms.
they're wearing their uniforms. Get a uniform ball cap and have everyone wear a ball cap. Don't wear the freaking shit over the helmet.
Yeah.
You don't need it. Um, so I guess there's not really a good way to transition into this part.
No, we'll just talk about all the cats that are literally congregating around me.
Yeah, right. All of your 20,000 cats.
Yeah. But with the news about the recent attack at the parade in Chicago, I think it's prudent for us to talk about. It seems to be a alarming trend that seems to be happening in America, where parades are may not necessarily be a safe thing for people anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's nothing sacred anymore.
Right.
So, for those of you that don't know, on July 4th in Highland Park, in Chicago, Illinois, 6 people were killed, 30 were injured in a shooting at a July 4th parade. A brief summary of the story was by AP
Right.
is a gunman on a rooftop opened fire on an Independence Day parade in suburban Chicago on Monday, killing at least 6 people, wounding at least 30, and sending hundreds of marchers, parents with strollers and children, and on bicycles fleeing in terror. Authorities said a man named as a person of interest in the shooting was taken into police custody Monday evening after hours long manhunt in and around Highland Park.
And so, not just with the Highland Park, back in November, there was a Waukesha. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. There was a Christmas parade in November, and there was a truck that drove into the parade while the parade was going and struck multiple people, including a marching band. So that resulted in 5 deaths and more than 40 people injured as well. So it just seems like maybe it sucks to say this, but how schools have active shooter drills, maybe now marching bands need to start think of like active awareness drills during parades, or maybe we need more staff and volunteers just on the lookout for maybe something that might seem suspicious. And obviously it's really hard in a parade to be proactive about stuff like that, because literally
Right.
you're out in the open. You're not in the school setting, so you can't like shelter or hunker down in place. But I think maybe just for marching bands are a staple of parades, and they're always going to be part of parades. But if this is a continuing thing, we definitely need to make sure that we're doing the best of our ability to protect everybody who's in a parade, and maybe we need to find a way to come up with a solution or a drill that uh, parade goers can take part of, which sucks to say again, but it's
Yeah.
just becoming the reality of America.
It's it, this is it's very unsettling to me, the amount of shootings, the amount of evil that there are regarding around these events.
Hmm.
Um, for me, I know it's always been a problem in the United States, but for me, I was pretty ignorant to it. Um, because it's one of those things. I wasn't personally affected, so it
Right.
was, and I'm very fortunate for that. But I couldn't, it was hard for me to wrap my mind around what was happening because it wasn't directly affecting me. But ever since the Boston Marathon bombing
Hmm.
was when I started paying attention to this kind of thing. Um, and it's crazy to me. And I'm looking farther down in this article, and another thing that bothers me is, so let me read this to you. So, um, Highland Police Chief Police Chief Lou Jogman, said a police officer pulled over Robert E. Cremo III about 5 miles north of the shooting scene. Several hours after the police released a man's photo and image of his car, warned public he was likely the armed assailant. Authorities initially said he was 22, but FBI bulletin and Cremo's social media said he was 21. So it's not even like old people that are just like older individuals that are just snapping. These are people that are young,
Right. Could be
and
your
that
peers.
that could
Usually
be your
is,
peers,
yeah,
and
usually
it
is our
usually is,
peers in our age range right now.
and that's scary, um, because like, and I know a lot of people will hear this and be like, that's not gonna, it's not, or like, yeah, it's not gonna happen to me, or right, but that's the same kind of mindset that I had before the Boston Marathon bombing.
Right.
Um, and sure, you might not be affected, but your world is being affected
Absolutely. And
by
then
it.
again, 6 degrees of separation might feel like a lot, but when you quickly think about 6 degrees of separation, you're like, oh, like literally you can know anybody in the world just by 6 degrees. Like you
Yeah.
know a friend who knows a friend who knows a friend who knows a friend who knows a friend, and now you literally know everybody in the world, which is ridiculous.
Yep. And to yeah, you explained it. So it's just keep an eye out for these things. I don't necessarily know. I'm not in position or have the experience to be able to say anything about improving safety
Hmm.
on these because I am not a city official. I'm not, never been a police officer. I don't know what the right way to do it. But there's got to be a right way to do it.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope that parades can continue to be an event because it draws in a lot of people. They're
Right.
a staple to big festivals and things like that. But if this is going to become also a staple, I'd rather not have the events at all.
Right. So definitely, if you have concerns about marching in parades, your concerns are very valid, and I definitely talk to somebody about that and just talk it out, and maybe they might not have solutions or um, something that you might want to hear. But I think if we can start talking about it, just in the world that we live in now, we always have to think about everything, and everybody's feelings about everything is valid. So don't feel like you have to bottle up and say like, "Oh, parades don't feel safe to me anymore."
Right.
Because in reality, there are thousands of people that now say, "Yeah, that parade wasn't safe for us." So
Right. And if you do feel like there is like something feels uneasy or you think you may have possibly
heard something.
inadvertently possibly heard something um and you want to bring it up as a concern, call your city council.
Yeah.
They have that your city council in America, that's a public domain. You can call them and state your concerns. So,
Right.
and then I would consider that's a bare minimum. You done your part. That's your part. You've let them know that you think there's something wrong,
Mm.
and they can take it from there.
Yeah.
Um, so sorry to go super negative on us here, but we had to talk about it. It's a big deal. Um, we made this podcast as part of this reason is to talk about these kinds of things. So we needed to talk about it. So all the condolences out to all the victims and the victims' families of these shootings. And I mean, it's never going to be okay that this happened, but hopefully justice serves its course or does its thing. Um. Anyway,
Okay.
back into a regular scheduled programming, which I guess that was still part of the regular scheduled
Right.
programming. Um.
Have you had
And
rain at your parades?
yes, I have. And it's terrible. You put on here rain can make the best or the worst parade. I have zero experience where it can be the best parade.
Okay. Well, I am Owen, and you are a or not a percussionist, a
I'm a brass player.
brass person. So you have to play no matter what.
No matter what, I hate the rain.
Yeah. Did you have to wear gloves at every single parade though?
Yes,
Oh,
every
that's
single
that sounds
parade.
awful. Okay. Even if you weren't in uniform?
Even because you don't want to stain your instrument because the oils from your hands will screw up the brass on the instrument.
I mean, I guess so. At my high school was like only the DCI kids who came back would always wear gloves no matter what with their instruments.
For that
Um,
reason.
yeah. But I don't know. We had one year where it started raining in the middle of the parade, so all the staff came and got the Woodwinds instruments, and we sort of became like color guard. And marched behind the band and just did like our stands. What's the word when you'd have like a stands and then you'd have like a little dance routine with the song? Do you remember what's that called? Did you guys not do that?
Um, we didn't do it, but I know what you're talking about.
Right.
Um,
Um.
Jeez, what is that? Is that I don't know.
Anyways, yeah, we would
Somebody,
just
somebody educate us, please.
yeah, it was like just our dance routines that we did with all our stand tunes, which was convenient because again, our band director was like, "Yeah, we'll just do stand tunes for the parade." So
Isn't
we
that
always
just
had
called a dance break?
not a dance break because like a dance break is when like usually the whole band does it and it's only like the drum line that's playing. Um, but anyways, that was probably one of our most fun parades because it was like still sunny, but it was still like raining, but it wasn't raining super hard. It was like not. It was in between drizzle and rain. I don't know, heavy drizzle. There we go, or light rain. So like it was enough to warrant us to put away our instruments, but like it wasn't like pouring and we're getting absolutely soaked. Um, so that was one of the fun times we've had a rain parade. And again, we didn't have to play, so like save chops. But yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
good
for
for you.
like I guess for y'all brass players, you have to play no matter what.
Yeah,
So
I hate rain.
okay,
Oh, okay. In a band setting, I hate rain. Normally,
right.
I don't hate rain. I'm not hating on rain. Just it's actually like raining outside right now.
So I would
Um,
say for Woodwinds and guard, assuming the guard doesn't have flags, because oh dear lord, rain on flags is awful.
oh man, yeah, it
And
is.
there are some guard instructors out there like, you have to use your flag no matter what, even if it's pouring. And you're like, my flag just went from like 2 pounds to 12 pounds.
I can't wait until we get one of my favorite people, Cody Seegers, on here,
Hmm.
who is a massive guard instructor, WGI
Right.
medalist, and oh man, he will light that up. So we need to pin that and bring that up
Yeah.
to him when
Yeah,
when we talk
because
about it.
one of our guard instructors, it had rain just before our drill rehearsal block before a competition. So there was puddles everywhere in the parking lot that we were warming up in. And he decided that the guard was going to warm up with their beautiful double-handed flags that are pretty big and they had like the
No,
the textured wave in them so that when you like
yeah,
when you wave them you see the flutter effect and everything. So like when our flags were on point, our GE score went through the flipping roof because like those flags basically just made our ballad really good. And so he made them practice with the ballad flags, and obviously you would come down, put your arms down, and the flags would just soak in the water. And then comes competition time, 15 minutes later, like, oh, sorry, we can't use the flags because they're soaked now. I
yeah.
was like,
No,
you literally just ruined our ballad.
that's
Because our
crazy.
guard was always winning first overall. So even if the band was placing like fourth or third overall and like first in the 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 caption, our guard would always win first. So it was like, man, our scores are gonna tank. But I
I think
digress.
we, I think we were both fortunate on that. Our guard also placed very well
You know.
through ours.
So yeah, I can see how rain can be more of a downside than a good side. But I don't know, just try to get, I guess, just try to make the best of it because I think most band directors out there will know when that limit is of like, hey, no, everybody needs to put their instruments away. Or hey, no,
Yeah,
we shouldn't be in this parade anymore. Um, so I guess just know that your staff probably has done a ton of things in the rain and they have learned through experience what is good or maybe not good, but is okay
what's
for the
acceptable?
parade. Yeah. So if you've never been a parade that's rained, I guess lucky you. I guess if you're in like Arizona, you probably will never see rain at a parade. So
And if you've never been in a parade, but you're a musician,
yeah,
I think you could still march in a parade.
yeah. Have you ever
Because
heard of any marching bands that have like plucked people from their like symphonic programs? It's been like, hey, you're gonna march in this parade with us.
yeah, absolutely. There's also homeschool bands that do that.
Oh, that's true.
And some high schools may not have a marching band, but they get their like ensembles together and they march in the parade.
Yeah. Though I have
Yeah, absolutely.
I have seen sometimes like a flatbed 18 wheeler. They'll just put everybody on that flatbed and they'll just
Yeah,
drive the 18 wheeler really
and they'll
slowly.
just play.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think any musician could march in a parade.
Yeah.
Um, because it's a good part of it. Music is a integral part
Yeah, and I
of
feel
a
like if you
parade.
can carry a beat, you can move your legs at that beat.
Listen to our awesome beat. Were you there for that?
No.
Oh man, yeah, we can go into. That's not important for this.
Okay. Well, I think that's covered. That about covers everything for raids, don't you think so? Anything we're
I
missing? There's probably
no,
something as somebody's gonna mention, like, "Wow, I can't believe you didn't talk about this." This is like the number one thing about parades.
and so then we can do another episode on parades. We can
Yeah.
do multiple episodes on any of the things we talk about.
Oh, here's one. Were you guys allowed to wave at people after the set ended and it was just a drum break?
No, I was
No.
not.
You guys always had to do your horns up and down and your horn
Yeah.
flashes.
Yep.
No. Yeah, we were allowed to wave. I think it's cool. Yeah, just wave at people, especially young kids if they're waving at you, because you're
Yeah. Be
leaving an
nice.
impression on them. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
looking cool, but you're gonna look much cooler if you're wearing sunglasses and you wave at them. So,
Yep. You're gonna be like a celebrity to those kids.
yeah. Oh my God, that person waved at me.
Oh my gosh.
Especially even better if they remember that the band parents that were walking with the band gave out candy to them too.
Right.
Yeah. But anyways, so this has been the episode about parades. This has been Harrison, and I'm James. This is a marching arts podcast, your guide to all things marching. You can find us on all the socials at the Marching Arts Pod. That's POD. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.